Topuria says he's back. What you think about that?
He better be, because I'm supposed to fight him in June on the White House card.
Uh-oh.
That's who I'm fighting.
Oh, that's who you want.
That's who I have to have. That's why I fought for this thing. White House in June, let's go.
What's next?
ILIA Topuria on the White House. Has to be. Has to be. No other option.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
Walking out of the Oval Office, into the cage, wearing the flag.
Entertaining.
I think we're going to main event it. I think we'll be the main event.
Boom. Let's go. Once in a lifetime.
I'm totally guessing throwing shit against the wall right now.
Yeah. Universe.
But I mean, what else?
You know what I think will probably happen? You know what I think will probably happen?
We'll see it.
I think there'll be co-headline. You'll be one of them so that they can say, like, the man who's never had a bad fight definitely here. So that's it.
ILIA Topuria just declared war on Islam Makhachev and the entire lightweight division. But here's what nobody's telling you about why this move could either crown him as the greatest featherweight of all time or completely destroy his legacy. This isn't just about jumping weight classes. This is about a fighter who's been grinding through absolute hell, taking damage, facing killer after killer in the featherweight division, and now he's ready to do something that could rewrite MMA history forever. But the UFC brass just told him no, and that rejection might be the best thing that ever happened to his career.
But name-wise, I think that is
If it's McGregor, then McGregor's going to fight me, and we'll be main event anyway.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, never had a bad fight. Okay.
Yeah, it would be if Ilya didn't come back, they would strip him. I'd become the undisputed, and then McGregor gets to fight whoever he wants. So I guess that would be an option.
About a rematch with Volk. But the one thing that we have to acknowledge as fans is Volk's never asked for a rematch. Volk's got nothing to do at 45 that anybody wants to see. This is all pretend. We're pretending. But we would like to see him go up to 55. That would be interesting if Volk, much like he challenged Islam, challenged Ilya.
Let me paint you the real picture of what Ilya's been through, because the casual fans have no clue about the war this man has been fighting. We're talking about a fighter who's been put through the absolute meat grinder at 145 pounds. Every single fight has been a battle. Every single opponent has been trying to take his head off. And here's the crazy part. He's been winning, but it's been costing him. The damage accumulates. The recovery time gets longer. The pressure gets heavier. This isn't some pretty boy who's been fed easy fights. Ilya has seen the highest peaks of victory and the lowest valleys of doubt. And that journey through hell is exactly what's forged him into the monster he is today.
But that win brings into question that they'd only completed one round, and that round was won by Volk. So many of us...
But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Ilya looked at that lightweight division, looked at Islam Makhachev sitting on top like an untouchable king, and said, you know what? I'm coming for you. Not in a few years, not when it's convenient. Right now. The audacity of that move is unprecedented in modern MMA. This man wants to skip the entire lightweight queue, bypass all the contenders who have been waiting years for their shot, and go straight to the champion. And you know what the most insane part is? He actually believes he can do it. That's not confidence, that's something else entirely. That's the mindset of someone who sees themselves as already operating on a different level than everyone else in the sport.
We don't have a debate, we got nothing to fight about.
Consider all those non-stop, frequently useless GOAT discussions you hear constantly circulate for the unvarnished, stark truth. Look, history isn't slowly amassed across ages of compiling, it's fiercely, conclusively repenned in one sole conclusive, world-altering instant. ILIA Topuria didn't merely secure a victory, he utterly...
Here's the kicker, though. The UFC looked him dead in the eye and said, absolutely not. You don't have the ranking. You haven't earned your place in line. You need to stay at featherweight and handle your business there first. And listen, this is where most fighters would tuck their tail between their legs and go back to what's safe. But Ilya, this rejection didn't crush him. It lit a fire under him that's about to burn down everything in his path. Because here's what the UFC brass doesn't understand: true champions don't ask for opportunities. They create them. They don't wait for permission. They take what they believe is already theirs.
Okay, disregard solely the featherweight title. Dismiss the realm he just controlled. You've caught the murmurs, haven't you? The gossip, the very hushed to simply gain another item. No, his efforts go much deeper than that. He pursues phantoms. Honestly, you really believe that achieving one, Amazing naturally makes you the finest among all. That apparently unconquerable summit of power, this isn't just about statistics. It's not about triumphs etched on paper. This is about the brutal, tough, unceasing mental battle fought inside and outside the cage. Can ILIA, a fighter still shaping his destiny, truly bear that immense burden, that clear bullseye that comes with contending in such an acclaimed division? He's not merely returning to secure a title. You truly must etch that deep within your mind.
Now let me tell you what this really means for the featherweight division and why everyone should be terrified. That denial from the UFC just turned ILIA into something dangerous. He's not just fighting for titles anymore. He's fighting to prove a point. Every opponent at 145 is now standing between him and his ultimate goal of facing Islam. Every fight is now about sending a message to the UFC that they made a mistake by telling him no. And when a fighter is operating with that level of motivation, with that chip on their shoulder, they become absolutely unstoppable. The featherweight division is about to witness a level of violence and dominance we haven't seen in years.
Beat guys' records or beat more guys than Jose Aldo. Who cares? What difference does it make? Shouldn't we say that ILIA is the greatest 45-pounder of all time? Because we don't. We say it about the guy that ILIA shut off in less than 8 minutes. Fair enough. All right, we're at 155. What do we have to do to say that ILIA is the greatest 155-pounder of all time?
But wait, it gets even crazier. Because what ILIA is really chasing isn't just a second belt. It's immortality. He wants to be remembered as the greatest featherweight who ever lived, and he knows that staying in his comfort zone at 145 won't get him there. The truly legendary fighters in this sport are remembered for taking the biggest risks at the biggest moments. They're remembered for facing their fears head-on and conquering divisions that seemed impossible to conquer. ILIA sees Islam Makhachev as his white whale, the one fight that would cement his legacy forever. And that hunger is what separates champions from legends.
To Khabib. And I do know that I hear some hardcore, some older guys say BJ Penn. So I think in a discussion, I think Khabib's gonna win that. Because after all, it's just a popularity. It's just it's a vote.
Here's what nobody else is talking about, though. The mental warfare that's happening right now between these two fighters. Islam knows that ILIA is coming for him eventually. He knows that there's a featherweight champion who's publicly calling him out, who's telling the world that he's ready to move up and take that lightweight belt. That plants seeds of doubt. That creates pressure. Because what happens if Islam loses to someone else before ILIA gets his shot? What happens if he looks vulnerable in his next defense? Suddenly, ILIA's call-out looks prophetic, and Islam's aura of invincibility starts to crack.
That ILIA's got to do, and I don't think that's just title defenses, by the way. I think it's the way you win. I think it's the dominance. And can ILIA, and this is a very relevant question that I'm about to ask you. Can ILIA be the GOAT operating in the same time, the same era as Islam, if those two never meet? As impressive as what ILIA has done.
And get this, the timing of all this couldn't be more perfect for ILIA's master plan. The lightweight division is stacked with killers, but none of them have the star power or the mystique that ILIA brings to the table. Charles Oliveira, Beneil Darius, Justin Gaethje, they're all incredible fighters, but they're not capturing the imagination of fight fans the way a champion moving up from another division would. The UFC knows that ILIA versus Islam would be one of the biggest fights they could possibly make. The money would be astronomical. The global attention would be insane. But they also know that if they give ILIA that shot too early, they're potentially sacrificing their featherweight division's biggest star.
Islam's done the same thing. And wouldn't you be forced to say that? ILIA's had one match at 155 pounds, and he won the world title. Islam's had one match at welterweight, and he won the title. keeps going, he's a 2-division champion. How does ILIA surpass him? And there's a way, right? First off, Islam has a loss. What do you want to do? Everybody, right? It's one of those things. What do you want to do? You want to hold that against him? You want to act like that doesn't speak to his greatness, as opposed to him getting caught in one moment? And what do you want to do? But eventually you're going to be...
Hold up, because here's where the story takes another wild turn. Some people in the MMA community are already whispering that ILIA might be the greatest featherweight of all time, and he's barely scratched the surface of his potential. Think about that for a second. We're talking about a division that's had legends like Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski. But ILIA's combination of power, technique, and mental toughness is something we've never seen before at 145 pounds. The way he dismantled Max Holloway wasn't just impressive. It was a statement that the old guard is officially done and a new era has begun.
Timeline that ILIA came to that weight class calling out Islam. Islam publicly said no to that fight and went to 170. That statement right there cost me a relationship with Islam Makhachev, by the way. I don't think I've ever told you guys that story. Islam does not like that I make that statement, but that statement is 100% the way it happened.
But here's the reality check that nobody wants to admit. Greatness isn't just about talent. It's about longevity. It's about facing adversity over and over again and finding ways to overcome it. ILIA is dealing with that adversity right now, and how he handles it will determine whether he becomes a footnote in MMA history or a chapter that future fighters study for generations. The UFC telling him no might be the best thing that ever happened to his career, because now he has to prove himself in ways that going straight to Islam never would have required.
But unequivocally encountering the supreme monarch, Islam.
Let me be clear, that wasn't mere bravado.
No mere hollow spectacle. That amounted to an unyielding war cry, a gauntlet so clear and so strong that it utterly dictated the champion's move. That, fellow listeners, other hand yearns to claim it through brute force.
So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think ILIA should stay at featherweight and cement his legacy there, or is he right to chase Islam Makhachev and risk everything for a shot at double champion status? Is this the move of a true champion, or is he biting off more than he can chew? If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening behind the scenes in the UFC, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, because this story is just getting started, and things are about to get absolutely insane. I'll see you in the next one.
Picture, he's here to reclaim that.
You have to fight and beat Islam, and that is exactly what ILIA tried to do. He went to the media, he worked very hard, he put a finger in Islam's chest, to the point
You just heard.
For a
And you know what? While we're sitting here debating whether ILIA should chase Islam or not, there's something absolutely mind-blowing happening that everyone's completely missing. The psychological warfare has already begun, and ILIA is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Every single interview he does, every social media post, every training video he releases, it's all calculated to get inside Islam's head. And here's the scary part, it's working. Islam has started responding to ILIA's callouts in ways that show he's taking this threat seriously. When was the last time you saw Islam Makhachev actively engaging with a featherweight's trash talk? Never. But ILIA has managed to penetrate that Dagestani composure in a way that nobody else has been able to do.
and Khabib said, we're not going to fight him. We're not going to fight him because he's not a 55-pounder. He has to do something, and then we will fight him. He has to do something with somebody. Get a ranking somewhere, and then we'll fight you. But right now, you're not in the rankings. Fair enough. This was their position. But if we have nothing else, right, if time goes by and these guys never touch one another, we are going to have to default back to that. That one guy tried to do it and was willing, and
But let's talk about what makes this situation so explosive from a stylistic standpoint, because this isn't just about two champions wanting to fight each other. This is about two completely opposite fighting philosophies on a collision course. Islam represents the Dagestani wrestling machine, call-outs patient, methodical, suffocating. He breaks your will over 5 rounds by putting you in positions where you can't breathe, can't think, can't fight back. ILIA represents something entirely different. He's violence incarnate, a knockout artist who can end your night with a single perfectly timed shot. The clash of styles alone would make this one of the most compelling fights in UFC history, but add in the championship implications, and you're looking at something truly special.
Not a remote ambition for him. In his view, it's a pilfered birthright, something already his. Subjective ratings, ignore the backroom politics. The cage, the ultimate, calls for full conviction, nothing less. It's not about those who refuse battle. Assessing rivals, no.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. ILIA's team knows something that the general public doesn't understand yet. They've been studying Islam's fights obsessively, and they've identified weaknesses that nobody else has been able to exploit. We're talking about hundreds of hours of film study, breaking down every single exchange, every transition, every moment where Islam showed even the slightest vulnerability. And what they've discovered is that Islam's striking defense, while solid, has gaps that a precision striker like ILIA could potentially exploit. The question isn't whether ILIA has the power to hurt Islam. We know he does. The question is whether he can create the openings necessary to land those fight-ending shots before Islam can drag him into deep waters.
Or he could go to 170, beat Islam, and close the book on this whole thing right now. But isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? We don't call ILIA the greatest 45-pounder of all time, but we do give that distinction to a guy that ILIA shut off. So we talk about to be the greatest of all time, he's got to have this longevity, he's got to fight 5 more guys, he's got to deal with all these things. Well, or he could just go beat Islam right now. Do you agree? Do you agree?
And speaking of deep waters, let's address the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about: the weight cut. Moving from featherweight to lightweight might sound simple on paper, but the reality is far more complex. ILIA has been cutting down to 145 pounds for his entire UFC career, and his body has adapted to fighting at that weight. Moving up to 155 means dealing with naturally bigger, stronger opponents who have size and strength advantages that could neutralize some of his physical gifts. But here's the plot twist: some fighters actually perform better when they're not killing themselves to make weight. Look at what happened when Anthony Johnson moved up from welterweight to light heavyweight. Sometimes that extra weight and strength can actually enhance a fighter's natural abilities rather than diminish them. Now here's something that's going to blow your mind about ILIA's training camp and preparation. His team has been secretly preparing for a potential move to lightweight for over a year now. While everyone thought he was just focused on cleaning out the featherweight division, they've been working on specific skills and strategies designed to deal with larger opponents. We're talking about modified wrestling techniques, different striking angles, even changes to his conditioning program to account for the increased pace and pressure that comes with fighting bigger men. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision to call out Islam. This was a calculated, long-term strategy that's been in development since before he even won the featherweight title. But let me tell you about the real genius behind ILIA's master plan, because this goes way deeper than just wanting to be a two-division champion. He's looking at the business side of fighting in ways that most athletes never consider. The money difference between being a dominant featherweight champion and being someone who holds belts in 2 divisions simultaneously is astronomical. We're talking about going from making a few million per fight to potentially earning 8 figures for a single bout. The endorsement deals, the global recognition, the legacy implications, all of that multiplies exponentially when you're operating as a double champion. ILIA isn't just thinking like a fighter. He's thinking like a businessman who understands that his prime earning years are limited, and he needs to maximize every opportunity. Here's where the story gets absolutely wild, though, and this is information that most people don't have access to. Behind the scenes, there have been preliminary discussions between ILIA's management team and the UFC brass about what it would take to make the Islam fight happen. We're not talking about official negotiations, but exploratory conversations about timelines, conditions, and what ILIA would need to accomplish at featherweight to earn that opportunity. And according to sources close to the situation, the number they're throwing around is insane. ILIA might need to defend his featherweight title at least 2 more times, against top-tier opponents, in dominant fashion, before the UFC would even consider giving him the shot at Islam. Think about the pressure that creates. Every featherweight title defense becomes a job interview for the biggest fight of his career. One bad performance, one close decision, one moment of vulnerability, and that dream of facing Islam could disappear forever. But here's what makes ILIA so dangerous in this situation. He thrives under pressure. The higher the stakes, the better he performs. Look at his biggest fights so far. The more pressure that was on him, the more spectacular his performances became. Now imagine him going into his next few title defenses, knowing that each one is a stepping stone toward the fight that could define his entire legacy. And let's talk about something that nobody else is discussing, the impact this is having on the rest of the featherweight division. Every contender at 145 pounds knows that they're not just fighting for a title shot anymore. They're fighting to be the guy who derails ILIA's master plan. They're fighting to be the one who stops his march toward lightweight glory. That creates a different level of desperation and hunger in potential opponents. Guys like Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez, and Josh Emmett aren't just looking to win anymore, they're looking to make statements, to prove that ILIA isn't as untouchable as everyone thinks he is. The entire division has been electrified by this situation, and that means better fights for all of us. But here's the plot twist that could change everything, and this is something that most analysts are completely overlooking. What if Islam loses his belt before ILIA gets his shot? The lightweight division is absolutely murderous right now, and Islam is going to face increasingly dangerous challenges with every title defense. Charles Oliveira is still lurking. Beneil Darius is a nightmare matchup for anyone, and there are rising contenders who could potentially pull off upsets. If Islam loses that belt, does ILIA's entire strategy fall apart? Or does he pivot and chase whoever the new champion is? The uncertainty adds another layer of complexity to an already intricate situation. Here's what's really fascinating about ILIA's mindset right now, though. In recent interviews, he started talking about legacy in ways that show he's thinking far beyond just the immediate future. He's studying the careers of fighters like BJ Penn, who moved between divisions and created legendary moments that are still talked about decades later. He's looking at guys like Daniel Cormier, who proved that you could dominate multiple weight classes simultaneously. But he's also aware of the cautionary tales, fighters who bit off more than they could chew and ended up diminishing their legacies by taking fights they weren't ready for. The fact that he's considering all of these angles shows a level of strategic thinking that separates him from most fighters. And get this, the mental preparation for potentially facing Islam is already changing the way ILIA approaches his training. His coaches have started incorporating Dagestani-style wrestlers into his camp, guys who can simulate the pressure and grinding style that Islam brings to every fight. We're talking about complete overhauls of his defensive wrestling, his cage craft, his ability to fight off his back if necessary. Even if the Islam fight never happens, this preparation is making him a more complete fighter and a more dangerous featherweight champion. It's like he's using the possibility of moving to lightweight to level up his entire skill set. But let me tell you about the psychological pressure that Islam is dealing with right now, because this situation is affecting both fighters in ways that people don't realize. Islam has spent his entire career being the hunter, working his way up the lightweight rankings, chasing champions, earning his opportunities through years of grinding. Now, for the first time, he's being hunted by someone from outside his division, someone who's calling him out publicly and creating expectations for a fight that doesn't even officially exist yet. That's a different kind of pressure, and we don't know how Islam responds to that because he's never been in this position before.